The Second Amendment comes under direct attack in Congress. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Yes, the Second Amendment is now under further attack than merely two states that are defying its precepts in recent federal cases. Now it comes under direct attack in Congress in the form of a bill that defies it openly. We see yet another reason to ask, why do our fellow citizens elect such flouters of the Constitution? Before I go into detail, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this video and channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt, which I've returned to yet again. Freedom isn't free. And now you're going to hear why. The bill in question is H.R. 1808, the Assault Weapons Ban of 2021. I've left a link to it in the description. Representative David N. Cicilline, who represents the 1st District of Rhode Island, introduced it on March 11th, 2021. And there it apparently languished until last Wednesday, July 20th. Then the House Judiciary Committee took it up for a 12-hour hearing and markup session. That hearing revealed everything you need to know about it. PBS carried the hearing live. I've left a link in the description with a timestamp at T equals 8064 seconds. Now that's 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 24 seconds. Representative Dan Bishop, the Republican representing the 9th District of North Carolina, led the charge against it. The Daily Caller has most of the relevant dialogue. First, Representative Bishop said that he would, and I quote, yield to anyone on the other side who would dispute that this bill would ban weapons that are in common use in the United States today. Unquote, Representative Bishop. Well, Representative Gerald Nadler, who represents New York's 10th District and also is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, rose to the challenge. That's the point, he said. The problem is that they are in common use. I have a link in the description to a tweet containing a 43-second exchange between those two men. Now, Representative Bishop pointed out that the Supreme Court's relevant cases, starting with U.S. v. Miller, 1939, made no provision for Congress deeming it necessary to deprive people of firearms in common use. Almost immediately, he rounded on Representative Cicilline, who introduced the bill. After observing sardonically that Cicilline is a very good lawyer, he said that his colleague had, and again I quote, used your legal skills to obfuscate what the Supreme Court has said in very clear terms, unquote. He went on to explain, drawing from U.S. v. Miller, D.C. v. Heller, McDonald v. Chicago. Representative Bishop went further in his criticism of Representative Cicilline. Again, I quote, what you suggest that this order can possibly comply with what the Supreme Court has held is now 3 separate cases is absolutely absurd. You defy the Supreme Court of the United States in the same way the Democrats mounted massive resistance to Brown versus Topeka Board of Education. We're going to explain that for the American people in the course of this hearing. The Democrats of the 1960s are the Democrats of the 2020s. Well, Mr. Bishop had a lot of good company. PBS had a panoramic shot showing 4 placards with black text on white backgrounds resting on easels behind Mr. Bishop. Each placard had one word on it, and they read, shall and not and be and infringed. Moreover, Mr. Bishop could not have picked a better case to illustrate the Democrats' defiant attitude. Recall that in his opinion in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, Justice Sam Alito specifically cited the Brown case. The very text of H.R. 1808 states the defiant attitude of the House Democratic Conference. This first two lines read, and I quote, "A bill to regulate assault weapons to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes." Sadly, the Judiciary Committee reported that bill out at the end of the session, 25-18. And of course, all those Democrats on the Judiciary Committee missed the point. And hope you missed the point. So now I want to make sure you don't miss the point. Before I do, I want to shout out to another sponsor, BitNext. This is your replacement for Zoom, Slack, the Google G Suite, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Chili Piper, among others. Unlike any of them, BitNext protects your content and conversations so well that even the administrators can't see it. So this is your channel for secure comms, conferencing, cloud storage, and file sharing. Best of all, everything is back-end, so you don't even need client software. If you have a browser, you can use BitNext. Scroll down to the very bottom for the link to the landing page and give them a try. 28 days free of charge. You can't beat that with a stick. Now, as usual, detractors of the Second Amendment speak of a particular ideal of what they call civilization. Whenever they discuss their ideals in any detail, they always end up sounding a variation on a common theme. That theme is that in a civilized society, no person, except a law enforcement officer, an active duty military service member, a very important person, usually an especially needy target, or the bodyguard of such person, shall own, carry, or so much as touch, much less discharge a firearm. Now, if you recall, Michael Moore carried the matter further. Even LEOs and active duty military would be subject to summary dismissal for disagreeing with him. Everything else that any of them say about common sense is just so much obfuscation, to paraphrase Representative Bishop. In fact, gun control legislation is all about, to paraphrase Benjamin Franklin, sacrificing essential liberty in order to purchase a little temporary safety. Now, in the particular context in which he wrote those words, Franklin encouraged people to arm themselves to meet any threat they faced. When you understand the Second Amendment in that context, you recognize the right and duty of self-defense. Franklin criticized those who were begging for more military deployment at the frontier. Instead, he urged them to arm themselves. Then that precedent alone tells us a free citizen has the right to arm himself at least as well as, if not better than, an infantry soldier. So I have this to say to Chairman Nadler. Your point is that firearms in common use today present a problem. I dispute that. I don't see it as a problem. You are the problem. You swore an oath, and I quote, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, unquote. When you make statements like that, you stand in violation of your oath. That goes for you too, Representative Cicilline, and the rest of you Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee. Now, if any of you have a problem with that, or think I have twisted your words, leave a comment. If anyone else within range of my voice thinks I am being unfair to them or to you, leave a comment. I don't delete comments unless Thomas Bowdler would. So go ahead, give it your best shot. Pun definitely intended. But now I wish to address those of you who like to think you love your freedom and would like to protect it. Who votes for such constitutional miscreants as these? Could it be that such people continue in office only because too many of us who would vote against them don't vote at all? Could it even be that others vote in their names and they don't even know that anyone is doing it. I grew up in the 60s, and I remember well this particular public service announcement campaign. Vote and the choice is yours. Don't vote and the choice is theirs. We get such unconstitutional bills as H.R. 1808 because people eligible to vote don't even register. Or maybe someone else registers for them. Now that's easy enough for any individual to check. And I urge you to check that out. And when they do register, they don't vote. And if someone else votes in their names, they don't even know what's going on because they never went to the polls. Now, of course, if you're like me, and you always make it a habit to vote, that kind of thing isn't going to happen to you. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas literally wrote a book about this kind of thing. He wrote that freedom was one vote away from abolition. Now, he was talking about the Supreme Court, but it applies equally, if not with greater force, to the electorate. With H.R. 1808, the Second Amendment now lies under its greatest threat yet. To protect your Second Amendment rights, vote for it. First, make sure you are registered to vote at your correct address. Second, make sure to cast your vote and don't let anyone else cast it for you. Third, cast your vote for freedom, for those who defend it, and against those who threaten it. Link in the description to the article, to H.R.'s 1808, to the 12-hour video with the timestamp at 8064 seconds, to the tweet with the 43-second video, and the conservative news and views. I have another link to the awesome online store and to BitNext, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video. Now, on the end screen, I'm going to put in a subscribe link, and also my Second Amendment playlist, and that 12-hour video from PBS NewsHour of the full House Judiciary Committee session. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.